Welcome back, warriors. Tansei Sego Anibuju, Quainin Deluisi Pam Palmater, and I'm the host of this show, The Warrior Life. This podcast is a show about living the warrior life, a lifestyle that focuses on decolonizing our minds, bodies, and spirits, while at the same time revitalizing our cultures, traditions, laws, and governing practices. And it's also about asserting, living, and defending our sovereignty all over our territories. And it's important to remember that Canada has been found guilty of both historic and ongoing genocide against Indigenous peoples and has failed to adequately address either the past harms that they've done or the ongoing injustices. And while different colonial tactics were used in different territories at different times, our nations share similar experiences of land dispossession, theft of our resources, violence, racism, and ongoing oppression. The Innu Nation in Labrador is no exception. And today, I'm honored to be joined by Innu Nation Grand Chief Etienne Rich and also the Deputy Grand Chief Marianne Nui. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much, Sir Pamela, for your invitation, and I'm very glad to sit down with you, have a little bit of discussion what's been happening with our organization, with Innu Nation, and along with both level of governments, provincial and federal level.
Thank you, Pamela. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm excited to be here and to share the thoughts of what's been happening at the Innu Nation.
I'm wondering if you can each take some time to introduce yourselves and your background. Maybe we'll start with you, Grand Chief.
Okay, my name is Etienne Rich, and I was born and raised here in the community of Sheshatshiu, Labrador, province of Newfoundland and Labrador. And the history of my work with the community of Sheshatshiu, and back in 2003, I was elected as a Shehaji Innu First Nation council member, and I served 2 terms there, and I finished my second term back in 2009. And then what happened after that? Then I went to school, and I took the business administration course, and and then once I got that done, and then I was in school in St. John's, Newfoundland, actually. And once I get that done, then I went back home in my community of Sheshatshiu, and I had a job offer, and I was working as the housing director and the special projects director at the same time. So I was the director of both of departments of the Shehaji Innu First Nation. And then when it comes to the back in 2014. That's when I ran as a Innu Nation board member, and I was elected back in 2014, and I managed to finish my term, and the term is 3 years, and then I decided again to run as a deputy grand chief at that time, the second term. So I managed to got elected as a deputy grand chief. And then I finished that term last year, and then again I decided to run as a Grand Chief, that's where I am right now. And I got elected last year August, and being with Innu Nation for the last 7 years is very good experience to me, and because and like I said, working with the people of the both communities, Sheshatshiu and Atwashi, is very honored to me, because I learned a lot, and we do have a really good advisors in both both communities of Sheshatshiu and Atwashi, which is there are elders. Mm-hmm. They're really good advisors. When it comes to the land claims, these are the advisors are very helpful to the leadership, to our organization, to Innu Nation. So that's where we are, and I'm from Sheshatshiu. Like I said, I was born and raised, and here's the good thing about it as well. I was raised by my grandfather. Aww. And the stories I had with my grandfather, he had me when I was about a week old, and ever since he raised me, and he passed away 25 years ago. and he managed to raise me by himself, and then until the when I was in my teenage years, that's when he passed away. So it was very pleasure and the very good experience growing up with an elder. So I'm very proud of myself to
Mhm.
call myself as an Innu and Indigenous person.
Yes. Lots of experience, lots of experience, like, grounded in culture, grounded in community with your family and your elders, and also in terms of your education.
Yes, very indeed, and it's very good experience because, like I said, on my mother's side, because I was raised by my grandfather on my father's side, and
Mhm.
and on my mother's side, my grandfather passed away a couple months ago, who was 93 years old.
Oh.
And like I said, when it comes to the elders, like I said, they're an advisors. Like they're
Yeah.
really good advisors, and I learn a lot from them, and the talking about the culture and the history of the Innu, which is these we've been around this area for thousands of years,
Mhm.
and like we always say, like we're dependent on the caribou. Like that's
Yes.
how we grew up, and that's how our grandparents and ancestors grew up with the caribou and the respect of the animals that we are very respectful towards to animals. And I know
Mhm.
a lot of people and these days now I believe they have a little bit teachings at the school when it comes to the animals, how to
Yeah.
respect the spirits of animals as well. And I think that's very important. These are the kind of things that we got to teach from our elders
Yeah.
in our communities. And still,
Most.
and there's some people, and like myself, once in a while,
Mhm.
if I have time, I'll go out in the bush and look for partridge, rabbit, and that kind of stuff. So I'm
Good.
still eating that wild food, and I'm, like I said, I'm very happy that I'm and still practicing my culture every day. So
Well,
that's where
thank
I am there, Pam.
Yeah, that's the best introduction ever. Okay, Deputy Grand Chief, I see you're back. Maybe you could give us a little introduction as well.
Hello, good morning from Banff. I am, well, first of all, I'm going to be speaking in my language.
Yeah.
Manya Nui is Niajo na Dwashish Noshi, na Dwashish Labrador, na Dwashi de Donet de Nasite National Labrador. Ego mi se de communities e hatchai similad needs magni dwatch. Maka na Dwashi to year 2000 at the banana even ego what the mass seizure on the Shniate away Shinana. Ego the division ni out nan what massish. Mag nakaon mag no taon es kun niwa cha mag ni ay naste heche kun niwa cha mi shet na de mag mi shet cha mi shet dos ay mag dos ma khwemch mag no smen ne wach no smet chash ego nas kumat na radio meg at no Pis mo ji we tap manash ji na to hanash nas kumat na maswe went in it to hasha. Hello, my name is Marianne Nui. I got elected at the Innu Nation as a deputy Grand Chief a year ago, actually, and this is my first term. I'm from Natwashish, which is in the northern Labrador, and it's a beautiful province, and it's a very remote area. The culture there is very rich, and the language is very rich as well. The community itself, it has like the population is about over 1,000. The Natwashish community was originally created back in year 2000. Actually, we moved from a community named Davison. It was only recently that we moved into that community. Davison, it was about when I first start, as far as I can remember, growing up in Davis, which was in a line, which was on an island. It was about 500 population, and it grew and grew. So we moved to. So the past leaders made a big effort by arguing with the federal government to move the community to a better housing and with running waters and with a better to be more inland. So it was a very I can't say I had a hard life living in Davis, and that it was very. I find it when I look back at it, I think I was very lucky to be raised in that community, because it was, for me, it was very rich. The family were so together. The language was very powerful, and and without having a running water, it was challenging, and we had to provide our own wood to keep ourselves warm by, especially in the winter time. It was a hard work, and that's how we were raised. That's how I was raised by my parents. My parents were very strong providers in the remote area, especially in the country. So they raised us a lot, along with my 6 brothers and my other 2 sisters. So that's how it made us strong today, is how they showed us, how strong they were to provide for our families. And today, my brothers and sisters are doing the best they can to to show that purpose for their own families too. I have a daughter. She is 25. She has about 4 beautiful girls now. So I'm a grandma. So I never expected to say that, but I am. I had a very good opportunity to learn a lot from my grandfather. His name was James Pastine. James Pastine was very involved in politics. He was very powerful when it comes to sharing his thoughts. His thoughts were very strong, and he never struggled showing his what his thoughts were against his colonization. And he went through all that, and he experienced that from growing up. And he experienced the abuse. He experienced the change of the religion when they forced religion, Roman Catholic, on them. So and especially when the alcohol was brought in by Gagishaut. When I say Gagishaut, I mean white people. So he experienced all that, and I remember sitting beside. I know I sat so many times with my grandfather growing up, and he used to tell me all these stories and what his experience were growing up. And I throughout those years, after I finished my high school, I took off to Ontario. I went to Toronto and then went off to Peterborough to do my native studies there. My grandfather James had the opportunity to come and visit there as well while I was there, and spoke about his experience as a Innu person, as the Innu Nation. and he shared his thoughts and the with the other students that I was with. So it was very it was very I was lucky to have my grandfather at the time and who took the time to come and visit when I was there. And I I lived in many places as I don't know. I even went to Vancouver to live for about 6 to 7 years to go to school again. But I always end up coming back to my community and Labrador. It was just it was always a home for me. And I returned probably close to 3 years ago now, and and I feel today that it was it was the right decision for me, and I feel very lucky to be home at right now.
This podcast is about lifting the voices of people and celebrating our culture and our backgrounds and everything. And clearly, you two are contributing significantly to the Innu Nation. And one of the reasons why I invited you to come on this podcast is because I've seen your advocacy on several key issues over the last few weeks. And one of them is a rate mitigation issue. And I know our listeners aren't going to know a whole lot of details about that. You have a campaign about that. There was an ad in the Globe and Mail. And I'm wondering, Grand Chief, if you can just kind of explain it to us very simply what the issue is.
Well, the issue is when we talk about the Muskrat Fall project. This is what happened back in 2008. That's when the negotiations started with that project with the Innu Nation and the governments, both Liberal governments, and it took a long time because of it took a long time to get the understanding with the community members of Shishishi and Natwashi in regards when it comes to that kind of big mega project in our territory. And what happened is back in 2011, that's when we signed the AIP agreement, agreement in principle agreement, and the I'm telling you because Innu people have really had a hard time to let go of their land because we had the ratification voting happening at that time, and they managed to pass the ratification, and then Innu Nation decided to, and then Innu Nation had the negotiations with the both Liberal governments about that project, and and like I said in my previous interviews, because it was a really hard decision for the Innu people here in Labrador to let go of the land, the kind of mega project that was happened, and about that Muskrat Falls. And there was an understanding, and there was a lot of promises, and and like I said, the agreement was an agreement, and it is a legal document, and these are the kind of things that we're looking forward to. These are the future generation people that are supposed to be benefit out of that project, and and then what happened this past few months ago, and when I was elected as a deputy grand chief at that time, because we keep saying that if there's going to be talks, and when it comes to the rate mitigation, because we know that it was coming, but we don't know what beat it, but we didn't know when. But here's the problem, because the problem about that rate mitigation, because of overruns and the way over budget of that project, which is got nothing to do with that, as you know, people. But here's the thing: we had an IBA with with Nelcor Energy, and and we had an understanding, and there's a percentage was on the table, was agreed upon between Innu Nation and the government, and and the people were very happy because these are the kind of mega projects that we've been consent to happen in our territory, inside our land, and the whole purpose of that, because these are the kind of things that we're looking forward to have a really good benefits for future generation young people, and And now this what happened past few months ago, just day before the announcement, that's when we knew that the red mitigation announcement is happening, which is I was very surprised and very disappointed at the same time. And and I keep shouting out into them through the media. I keep saying that just to let people know around the in the province, or probably in across Canada as well. Like I said, like our premier is a very dishonest person and very disrespectful, and I'm very disappointed because of it, because what he's been doing under the table between Canada and Newfoundland. And I think that's not a very nicest way to deal with the Indigenous people and like I said, we did have a legal document about the IBA between the Innu Nation and the about that mega project. And here's the thing. And now, after what happened, the after that happened, because uh, just a day before the announcement, the one of the government officials approached us, and we had a teleconference, and he just let us know that that there's going to be a rate mitigation announcement happening tomorrow, and I said, when was this decided? And I never heard anything, because just about a month before the announcement, I met with the premier of Newfoundland, in St. John's, and I'm surely clearly that I told him that he need to he need to inform us in ahead of the time, because we are one of the Aboriginal groups here in this province, that we have we are one of the big major players on that project, because we're the ones who are holding the IBA, and I think that's very important. And because you're signing a legal document here, and you have to think about that, because if there's no Innu, that project wouldn't be in reality. And these are the kind of things that they're backstabbing us, and they're doing behind door negotiations, and these are very unacceptable. Not very unacceptable. The both level of governments of Canada and Newfoundland, which is, we both know that they're liberals, and I think they're screwing us up as an Indigenous people here at Innu Nation, and I think that's very disrespectful. And like I said, I'm very disappointed, and I keep shouting out, and I'll keep shouting out as much as I can, and I'm not going to stop. And I'm pretty sure that Premier knows what I'm saying, and even though he hears it, that might as well sure do that. I'm more I'm more appreciative if he could listen to us. But here's the thing: at that time, we're requesting three things. We're requesting the formula of the financial formula. What's the deal looks like between the Canada and Newfoundland. These are the kind of things we've been requesting, because we want to know, we want to analyze our IBA, how that is going to be affected, because it's very important. Like I said, like these revenues are supposed to be benefit for our future generation people, our young people, Innu people especially. And the other thing that we're requesting, that we need to sit down on the negotiating table when it comes to the Canada and Newfoundland, when it comes to rate mitigation. I think that's very important, that that Innu Nation would have a seat there, because like I said, we're one of the major players on that big project. And which is, I have never received anything. We'll just keep sending correspondence between us as Innu Nation and the province of Newfoundland and Canada, and we end up filing the court. And we did that back in a couple of weeks ago, and at the same time we filed the injunction, court injunction, because I know that that final agreement need to be signed between from end of September, which is not very far from now. And I think that's very important, that that Innu Nation need to get the proper information, but from both level of governments, and I'm saying that and as well to sit on the negotiating table when it comes to rate mitigation. Yes. Because that's very important, because these are the revenues that we're really depend on, because there's a lot of gaps between the you're probably aware of the at the same time there are a couple there's a human rights report commission came out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're aware of that, but
Yeah.
it was, and we did that in St. John's, Newfoundland, and I think like the report said this is the third report that's been out, and there's been a lot of gaps, and those revenues of IBAs, that's the gaps that we use the funds to fill out those gaps that Canada is supposed to do. I think Canada is not doing nothing to the Indigenous people, and we end up using our own funds, source of funds there to fill those gaps on that report. And I think it's very important that Canada need to step up and be a government if he wants to be a government.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's the word I'm using, and I'm very happy. And I'm very happy to talk to anyone anytime. And like I said, like I do receive a lot of emails and the support from the different Indigenous leaders across the country in Canada, especially in the BC, Manitoba, and Ontario, and everything. I thank God for that, and I'm very appreciated. And I had a really good chance to talk with the national chief. What's her name? Ultraball. And I really do have, and I really had a really good conversation with her, talking about what's been happening with our nation and the both Liberal governments at the time.
Good. Well, that's good. I mean, Deputy Grand Chief, this seems like they don't seem to be respecting your land rights, your Innu rights, that this is like your lands and resources, and there's even an agreement in place. Like, what are your thoughts on this issue? This just seems like they're simply not respecting the law when it comes to your rights. She's frozen. Okay. Okay, well, maybe we'll come back to her. I'm just wondering, Grand Chief, there's a lot of legal rights involved here. I mean, we've long passed this issue of consultation. The issue should be consent, and you having a say, and you making governing decisions, and them respecting your rights. I mean, it seems to me like they're simply not respecting your rights here.
Yes, very indeed. That's what I keep saying, because looking at the Liberal government, actually, because Justin Trudeau keep talking about reconciliation and that kind of stuff. Like the other reporters are asking me, what do you think of reconciliation? I really don't know now these days. I don't know what's reconciliation anymore, because you keep talking about it. Our premier here in Newfoundland and Labrador keeps talking about it, and I'm having a hard time to believe what they're saying, because these days, because like what we haven't experienced this past couple months with them, our land, especially, and like I said, we're the ones who consent that project to move forward, and like I said, like I keep saying that the premier of Newfoundland and Labrador is a very dishonest person, and I thought at the beginning when I met him. When I was a deputy grand chief at the time, just about my term was over, he came to our community. I met with him, and because he was in the campaign mode at that time, because and he was a premier for almost a year, I think. Then there was a general election call for the province, and then he ran again, and then, like I said, and I thought we had a really good understanding and the really good working relationship with him between Innu Nation and the province of Newfoundland, which is, and everything what he says, like, it's just like it's gone. Like I'm having a hard time to believe in everything whatever he says right now, because like listen to him on the interviews after the red mitigation, like I said, very dishonest person. He never approached us. He doesn't give us any information. And they told me that they don't have no financial formula of that agreement yet. And how can you agree anything without financial formula? Tell me that.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not that stupid. We're probably Indigenous people, but we're not that stupid.
No,
so I think the premier need to smarten up here. I think like you're dealing with the people with the people the resources here in this territory, and and I'm saying pretty sure, like, if we don't benefit anything out of it, no one will benefit.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't let anyone to commission that dam if we don't benefit out of it, because we had a commitment and we had a legal documents, and
Mhm.
there was a percentage was in place to receive the revenue for the
Mhm.
future generation people. And if we don't get it, no one will get it. Not even the province of Newfoundland and Labrador will get it. So
Yeah.
that's that. We'll keep fighting much as we can, and that's if that's the way it's going to be, and that's the way it's going to be.
So what can we do to help? Like, I know other First Nations are supportive of you. You've got like activists and people like us who are supporting you. What can we do to help put pressure on the federal and provincial government to smarten up and come to the table in a good way?
Well, here's the thing. We know in the west of Indigenous people, they do have a similar formula of the IBAs that we have
Mhm.
in place with the governments. I think that's very important that they need to think about, because if the government could do that to us, they could do it to everyone. And I think that's very important, that we need to stick together as the Indigenous people, and we need to show them that we still exist. And this is our lands that you're
Yeah.
benefiting and collecting the revenue. And I think they should keep that in mind. And I think we should keep saying same over that we're still exist.
Mhm.
And now these days, I'm still listening the media, and looking at the residential school, like what that tells us.
Yep.
And the numbers keep rising. It
Mhm.
was start from 215. Now it's there over 6,000. And and the Canada wants to apologize to Indigenous people, and they keep finding this unmarked graves.
Yep.
And just previously, not too long ago, I received an email. Our premier wants to apologize in regards to residential school. I said, why? What do you want to apologize for? They still keep locating the
Yeah.
unmarked graves. And reconciliation. You're talking about reconciliation
Yeah.
here. Jesus, like I don't know. Like I don't know what they're trying to do, but like I said, we're still exist, and then they need to listen to us as Indigenous people. And I think it's very important that in across the country here in Canada, I think it's very important that the leadership, they should come together, and they should work together, and there should be one voice for the Indigenous people here in Canada. And I think that's the most important thing, that the whoever wants to take a seat of a federal seat as a government, then I think they need to respect the Indigenous people here in Canada.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. It's like what they want to do is just apologize and move on and forget about addressing what they did in the past. Like, you need to compensate and locate these children, and then they don't want to deal with all the injustices in the future. Because I mean, look at the Innu Nation. I mean, I've been following the Innu Nation for years, and you've got, got that Canadian Human Rights Tribunal a report about ongoing human rights violations. You've got the Hydro-Quebec, dam litigation. You've got this rate mitigation. There's just so many things. And even self-government, I understand they've been taking decades to
Oh,
try to negotiate self-government and land issues.
oh yes, we've been sitting on the table for the last 3 decades, like over 30 years. We've been negotiating the treaty, and we're still is. And there's a lot of, and the first report we had the community at the Canadian Human Rights, that was back in 1993. It was mentioned the treaty negotiation, and still the same as it is since 1993. So, like I said, there's a lots of gaps on that report there, and ever since
Mhm.
the first report. And here's the other thing that you just remind me about the Churchill Falls project. Like this is one of very good examples that the Newfoundland did this mega project in
Mhm.
Churchill Falls, which is we call ourselves that Michigamo. And these are the hunting grounds for our people for thousands of years. And so we've been existing in thousands of years in this
Mhm.
territory, and we prove that because we had to dig information under the ground for so many years, and we
Yeah.
do got the artifacts and everything, all kinds of proof for our people being in this land for thousands of years. And like I said, when we did the what do you call that, the press conference in regards that 50 years past due, and like I said, we were consulted, we were consented, we lost a lot of history, and like I said, we lost the roots of the hunting roots for the Innu people when they followed the caribou, and like I said, our ancestors and our people, their graves in underwater now because of the flooding of Death Churchill Falls, Michigamme Lake, and no one ever consent, and no one, we didn't consent that, and no one ever consult what they were going to do in our land, and I heard that the former premier of Newfoundland, that they're saying there's no Aboriginal exists in this area.
Oh my
My
goodness.
God! But
Ugh.
here's the thing: like, we have proof. We've been
Yeah.
here for thousands of years, like I said, and we still exist.
Yes. Yes.
And you still will keep hearing us, no matter what. And if we're gonna fight, we're gonna fight. Might as well go there if we're gonna have to do that. Because we've been there. We've been there. We've done that. We already experienced that, and we've been.
Yeah.
It's already happened there before, back in the early '80s. If you could remember about the history of Innu Nation when they fought about the low-level flying NATO here in Gooseberry.
Yes.
That was a big fight, and we managed, and we didn't give up, and we are the kind of people, we don't give up easy.
Well, I know that you have another really important meeting, and it would have been really great to also hear from Deputy Grand Chief, but I'm sure she echoes all of your concerns. What I'll do is make sure that we post links for people so that they can share all your press conferences and articles and find ways to support you. Is there anything else that we can do to help support the Innu Nation?
Well, like I said, like anytime, if you want me, if I get an invitation to speak out, and I'm more happy to do it, and I'm willing to do it, and I'm very happy that I had an invitation from you to sit down with you, and I very appreciate to do that. And like I said, like as an Indigenous people, there's only one voice. Like, I think we should keep it that way throughout to the Canada, and I think it's very important that that Canada need to hear the Indigenous people, what the concerns are, and they should keep that there in their heads, that they're being generating revenue in our lands.
Yes, exactly.
And one other thing, I just want to say something in my language. I just want to thank to Ninuskamoda and Inuja 제도 다고 mani tajmanja mayana ga isihanja mutanante monana nuwa jejiut na wiji da gut kut cheez ni de Canada na especially step mota de monja ne to da chojmo kamen do da magan ye shapi wa da nimjan jiwi mari do man de gaji and I just want to thank you again, dear Pam, and I'm very appreciated all the time that we've been having a little bit discussion, and I'm looking forward to do it again in the future.
Yes, for sure. Well, we'll definitely do what we can to make sure everyone knows. And thanks to all the listeners and the viewers who will share this podcast far and wide and demand that federal and provincial governments do better. I'll post all of the links. Thanks so much for tuning into the Warrior Life podcast. Hopefully next time we'll have a better connectivity with the Deputy Grand Chief. Thank you all again. Keep living a warrior life. Walalia.